Here's something nobody warned you about. Starting over feels harder when you've already been successful. Not easier, harder. You ran a business for 10 years, maybe more. You handled clients, made the hard calls, solved problems even before breakfast. You were the person other people came to. And now it's 2026. The internet is drowning in generic pivot advice, and you're sitting in front of a blank screen, sweating over a 3 sentence bio for a business you already know how to run. In my last video, I told you the real version of starting over at 50. And I told you your decades of experience, that's your edge. And that's still true. But today I want to talk about the part I didn't cover, the part that doesn't come with you, because once you can name it, it loses most of its power. And naming it is exactly what we're going to do today. If you're a woman rebuilding something in midlife and want honest support along the way, hit subscribe. This channel is built for exactly where you are right now. Can we talk about what actually happens when you pivot? The common advice says you just need to embrace a beginner's mind. Start fresh, be humble, learn like it's day one. But I want to push back because I ran an online music studio for over 11 years. I taught children, I built the curriculum, managed the parents, ran the recitals, handled the business side. In that world, I never questioned myself. When I walked into a lesson, I was the expert in the room. Full stop. Then I pivoted. New business, new audience, adults this time, my peers. And I want to tell you exactly what happened because I think it's happening to you too. I did not forget how to run a business. I did not lose over 11 years of skills overnight. But the first time I sat down to write about myself for this new audience, I froze. Here's the best way I can explain it. Imagine a chef who runs her own kitchen for a decade. Packed tables, regulars who order without looking at the menu. Then she moves to a new country. She still knows how to cook. Her hands still know every technique, but nobody in the new room knows her food yet. She didn't lose her skill. She lost her context. That's what I call authority context shock. And it's not the same thing as imposter syndrome. I want to be really clear about that because I think that label has done some damage here. An imposter is someone pretending to be something they're not. You have receipts. You have a decade of proof. You are not pretending anything. What you're experiencing is the shock of moving from a room that recognized your authority into a room that hasn't met you yet. And if you went from working with kids to working with adults like I did, there's an extra layer. Teaching children means you are the unquestioned authority in the room. Nobody is evaluating you. When you pitch to adults, to your peers, you feel evaluated, measured. That is a completely different experience in your body. Your nervous system notices the difference before your brain does. So if you've been wondering why you feel shaky doing things you've done 1,000 times, this is why. You're not broken. You're not suddenly a beginner. You're an expert standing in a new room, and the room just hasn't caught up yet. Now, let me show you the two places this shock hides. Because it never announces itself, it disguises itself as two very ordinary problems. First one, let me ask you a question that might sting a little. Why can you explain your business perfectly to a friend at the kitchen table, but the moment you try to write 3 sentences about yourself, your brain stops? You know what you do. You know who you serve. You could talk about it for an hour if someone asked. But the bio, that about page, nothing. I've lived this. And I want to tell you exactly how it went because I have a feeling you recognize yourself in it. When I built my new business, the about page was the hardest thing I wrote. Harder than tech, harder than learning the new tools, harder than anything because it was just me trying to put myself into words. I sat with my bio for days, not hours, days. I would write a sentence, delete it, write it again, ask myself, is this the right word? Is that the word she would respond to? Should I be thinking about buyer psychology here? Am I saying this in a way that reaches the woman I know I could serve? I knew who I could help. I could see her clearly. That was never the question. The question was whether I could get the right words in. And right kept moving. So here's what was actually happening. Because once I understood it, the whole thing loosened. Think about your old business for a second. When you wrote about it, you weren't really writing, you were describing. Over a decade of proof stood behind every sentence. Your results wrote your bio for you. All you had to do was report the facts. Now, think about the new one. There's no track record behind the words yet. So your brain does something sneaky. It decides the words have to do the job the proof used to do. Every sentence suddenly has to carry all the weight. Every word gets cross examined. Is this credible? Is this compelling? Would she trust this? You're not writing a bio anymore. You're writing a courtroom statement. And you're the witness, the lawyer, and the skeptical jury all at the same time. No wonder it takes days. In other words, the bio block is not a writing problem. You didn't forget how to write, it's a context problem. The bio feels impossible because you're asking 3 sentences to prove what 11 years used to prove for you. And no bio can do that. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. Trust in a new room isn't built by the perfect about page. It's built by showing up, saying true things, and letting people experience you over time. Hold on to that because the second disguise is even sneakier. Can we talk about the platform question? Because I already know some of you have spent more time deciding where to post than actually posting. YouTube or LinkedIn? LinkedIn or YouTube? Maybe both. No, that's too much. Okay, YouTube. Wait, but my audience is professional women, so LinkedIn. And then a week goes by, then another one, and you've published exactly nothing. I did this too. When I started this new business, choosing the right platform was one of the 3 things I froze on, right alongside the bio and the about page. I kept researching, comparing, asking which one was best for what I do. And every time I got close to an answer, I found one more article or one more training session that made me question it again. Here's the picture that finally helped me see what I was actually doing wrong. Imagine standing in a doorway, flipping a light switch back and forth. On, off. On, off. YouTube, LinkedIn. YouTube, LinkedIn. The room never gets lit. Not because the switch is broken, because you keep interrupting the circuit before the light has a chance to even come on. Platforms, they work the same way. Either one of them will light up if you leave the switch on long enough. Now, here's the part I want you to sit with because this is where it gets honest. In your old business, you never had this problem. You made decisions like this all the time, quickly, confidently. So why is this one different? I'll tell you what I finally admitted to myself. The platform question was never really about platforms. It was about being seen as a beginner. Because the moment I picked one and published, I would be visible. A woman with over 11 years of business experience posting her first shaky video. Her first awkward LinkedIn post with 3 views and no comments. And some part of me was not ready to be seen like that yet. So my brain gave me a very respectable way to hide. It called it research It called it strategy. It called it being thorough. But let me say it plainly. Sometimes research is just hiding. I watched my music students do this for over 11 years. The ones who would practice scales forever because scales are safe. Nobody judges your scales. It's the song played in front of actual people that's scary. So they stay on the scales. And I'd say that with love because I've been doing the grown up version of practicing scales for weeks. No, for months. Nah, years. And if I'm being fully honest, I'll still catch myself doing it. This isn't something I conquered and now I'm reporting back from the other side. This is something I'm walking through right now while I make these videos. The difference is now I can see it. And the moment I can see it, I can name it. That's not research anymore. That's me avoiding the song. And I know I'm not the only one. I watch women inside Scale Without Noise wrestle with this exact question. Smart, experienced women. Because this freeze doesn't care how long you've been in business. So let's put it all together. You're not dealing with imposter syndrome. You're dealing with authority context shock. And it hides in two places: the bio that takes all day and the platform decision that never ends. You can't fix what you won't name, but once you name it, you get to choose differently. So before you do anything else today, I want you to do one small thing. Say out loud which one has you frozen right now: the bio, the about page, or the platform. Out loud. I mean it. Naming it moves it from a fog in your head to a problem on the table. And problems on the table can be solved. Now, diagnosing the freeze is only half of this conversation. In part 2, I'm going to show you the other half, including something from my own notes app that I've never shown anyone. A journal entry from the day a simple landing page took me down after 11 years in building. And I'm going to hand you a permission slip that changes how you build from here. That video drops next week. So if today names something you've been feeling, hit subscribe and tap the bell. You don't want to catch the diagnosis and miss the treatment. And while you wait, if you haven't seen my video about what starting over at 50 really looks like, watch it next. It's the first half of the whole conversation: the grief, the retirement clock, the comparison trap, and that one question that cuts through overwhelm when your list is too long and your brain has stopped. Everything I talked about today sits on top of that video. It's right here on your screen. I'll see you there.